Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back 1% of the account's net revenue to the planet at no cost to you. There's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement, and there's no minimum balance required. The 1% for the Planet checking account, only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
The Bachelorette and Friends. From first love to happy ever after.
What's that?
From dating to dick pics.
Oh my.
Oh no! The Bachelorette and Friends. Oh, I love a good dick.
This podcast contains sexual references, coarse language, and adult themes from the beginning and throughout. It is not recommended for listeners under the age of 15.
If you subscribe on patreon.com/thecatchlerette you get early access to episodes, not to mention keeping the pod alive for as little as $1 a month. Subscribe now. Patreon.com/thecatchlerettepod. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Bachelorette and Friends. I'm your host, Carla Anita Mattiazzo, and today's guest is Chantele Guyer. She's an artist, and she was also on season 10 of Farmer Wants a Wife. Welcome to the podcast, Chantele.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, gorgeous. It's lovely to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
What made you apply for Farmer Wants a Wife, Chantele?
I was lying in bed one morning and I think I seen the Facebook ad come up on my phone, and I was, still am, but definitely single, probably desperate. But I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just give it a go. Yeah. And you have to send in a blood. I was never serious about it. I never actually thought I'd get on and whatever. Mm-hmm. And, I just filled out actually applied to be the farmer in the first place. Actually, that's how it went around. Yeah, because I own a farm back in Moree. So, yeah, applied to be the farmer. And then they've messaged me back saying, can you please apply to be the wife? And I was like, fuck, righto, yeah, no worries. So I had to do a video, and I still didn't take it too seriously. I think I had Levi, my youngest, on top of me, and I think I said along the lines of, I'd really love a husband because I need someone to fix the fences, a lot of those sort of lines, and that'll be it. And then, and then they wanted another video, said I'd made it through again, and so I think I showed them my boot collection. I don't even know. Yeah. And all the while I'm thinking, I'm never going to get on, but I suppose I kept a bit of positivity upstairs going, you might, but yeah. So that's how that came about. Got on.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So tell me more about your farm. I didn't know that you own a farm. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I own a farm in northern New South Wales, so it's about 80 kilometres west of Moree. It's all stock country. At the moment, I'm leasing it out because it came to a point where I could either run it by myself, but I've also got 4 children, so that made it very hard. Or I could move to the beach and paint my days away and be sincerely happy and lease it out and make some money the other way. So That's the way I went. Yes, but I'm actually looking at selling, so it's actually going to go to auction now. I've made the decision. I'm selling it in February, and I'm going to buy a much, much smaller farm, hopefully in this area. More, just for me, more manageable and, little hobby farm, so downsize.
Cool. That's lovely. That's a very luxurious position to be in, to be able to make those decisions, especially in 2020 with all the shit that has gone on. That's a very cool position to be in, Chantele.
I know. I've always considered myself to be the most unluckiest but luckiest person. Mm-hmm. I just fall into some unlucky shit, but I still managed to be lucky.
Brilliant. That's a great attitude. That's a really good attitude. So for most of the listeners, they know that we start on first crushes and we end up somewhere in happily ever after or some version or concept of that. So let's start at your crush. Can you remember your crush and what's the story around that?
I can remember my very first crush, and I've been thinking about this all week, or as soon as I knew that I was sort of coming on to talk with you. But it was definitely in primary school, and his name was Michael Boyd, and I really hope he listens to this because you broke my heart.
Oh, no.
But I remember it was I think he was like everybody's boyfriend, and like primary school we had, I think, 56 children because I went to a little bush school. So,
Yeah.
So I reckon Michael would have been everyone's first little crush. But it was the first time I cried over a boy too. So I think that's why I remember it. Yeah. So I don't even know how he broke up with me, but the next day he was dating like my next friends, like another friend. So, you know, that's how it goes. But yeah, I remember that. That would be the first time. And then I think, like, you know, I've always had a partner. This is probably the longest I've ever been single now, but like going through life, I think about it. I had like another serious boyfriend in high school, and you know, I've had a lot of boyfriends actually when I think about it.
So from the primary school crush, what happened after that? I like to use the term training wheel relationships for high school relationships because you get to work out your boundaries, what you like, what you don't like, without that adult pressure on top of the relationship. So tell us about your high school boyfriends. You said you had a few high school boyfriends. Tell us about them.
Yeah. Probably, I remember my year 7 boyfriend was Will, and coming from a bush school, like it was so different. Like, you know, I only went to town like every other weekend. Didn't get that interaction with other kids. I did do Saturday sport, but still didn't, you know, I wasn't used to a lot of people. And then I remember, so year 7, it was like all my other friends, they'd gone off to boarding school. I got sent to bloody Moree. But yeah, met, his name was Will, and head over heels, he was the cool guy. Like, you know, he reminds me of like the Blink 182 guys. Like that's how I still like that time. Although when I feel like we didn't talk. Like I feel like it was one of those ones, like we knew we were girlfriend and boyfriend, but I was so shy, like I'd be too scared to talk to him or sit next to him and things like that. And yeah, it was very odd.
What did you learn from that relationship?
I don't know if I learned a lot, to be honest. Like my dad raised me, so I didn't have, and he was a great dad, but I've never had this real good guidance. Like dad would be like, no boys. Like there was no one to ever sort of help me and talk about things. So it was hard. But yeah, like, so that was like a year 7 thing. And then there would have been a few others. And then my most serious relationship in high school would have came, I must have been in like year 11. And it was a serious one. So we ended up, I think, going, might have been 2 or 3 years. We ended up moving to Brisbane together.
Oh, wow.
After high school. Yeah. So I think it was like I finished high school and the next week I was gone. I said, I'm going to Brisbane. Yeah, see you later. So that didn't last very long. I think I was sort of just, you know, figuring out who I was, and I wanted to party, and I realized I wasn't ready to settle down and stuff like that. And so that ended abruptly. And then, like, God, I've had some boyfriends now I think about it.
So how did your dad go from saying no boyfriends to then you being with someone in year 11 all the way through until you were like 19? How did dad deal with that?
Dad, I don't know, because we don't like, he liked that guy. So that was a plus, okay. You know what I mean? But dad's if I was upset, dad would be there to talk to me about it, but it was more that you're okay. Do you know what I mean? Like it was never finding or getting to the bottom of things. Like it was just like, you're fine, you know, you'll get over it. That was sort of it, you know.
So how did that shape your coping mechanisms as a young person? Because I know as an adolescent, you're going through so many changes, so many things that you don't quite understand. And if you don't have somebody that you can go and talk to about it and help you navigate all those changes and stuff, how did that "oh, you'll be right" attitude shape your coping mechanisms, Chantele?
It didn't shape anything. So to be honest, I struggled. I've had some really shitty experiences in my life. Like, so even before these two things, before these guys, like I've had two or three major things that have happened, and I let those define my life. So like I didn't cope with anything, and Dad was a good dad, but just he couldn't help me cope either. So I was that rebel teenager, drinking, smoking. I didn't do drugs. That was sort of a plus, but I just hated everyone, hated my life, and I just really lashed out. And to be honest, I only came out of that probably 2 years ago.
Right. And what made you come out of that?
My brother helped me a lot. Like I was with my boy's father for on and off for quite a while, but honestly, I was sitting there one day, like, and I knew I had to, like, I was sort of weighing up the options in my head, and keep doing what I'm doing, keep being depressed, just keep going around in this ugly, vicious, toxic circle. Like I was in limbo, and then, or I can just, completely do like a 360, no longer let these other things that have happened in my past define me as a person, and go and find the person that I want to be.
Brilliant.
So that, and my brother would have been the biggest help. Like he made me realize a lot of things, but I feel like it's what he gets you going, like, or someone gets you going, like kickstarts the motor, and then you're good. Like after that, you're rolling on your own, sort of thing.
Brilliant. So it sounds like you've got a good relationship with your brother. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of The Catchalorette and Friends. Make sure you follow the podcast at The Catchalorette Pod on Instagram. And if you think your love journey is worth sharing with me on the podcast, send me an email, thecatchalorettepod@gmail.com, or slide into my Instagram DMs. Oh, and don't forget to give the podcast a review and tell all your motherfucking people to listen to the show. Now let's get back to this episode. Seeing as that, as you say, that destructive side of your personality only kind of ended a couple of years ago, so how did that work being a mum of 4 beautiful boys? How did that all work?
It was hard. Like in my mind, I always knew where I wanted to be and the person that I wanted to be. I just didn't know how to get there. So it was like someone just pulling something in my head, like all the time. Like, I knew the kind of mum I wanted to be. Like, I don't think I'm a bad mum. Like a lot of things I could have done differently and things like that. But it was just a state of depression, like for so long, it just felt like, and it felt like I was just constantly digging myself out. I'm like, just could never, ever get to the damn top. And I know that's sort of his life now, but like, it was just so shit. It was just shit.
Yeah.
And I just knew I couldn't do it anymore. Like I was like, you know what, my kids are going to grow up one day and they're going to leave home and I'm just going to be here. And feeling the same way now. I'm like, I'm not doing it. That's it. Done. See you later.
That's really good to see it like that. Yeah, because at the end of the day, the closest relationship you have for your whole life is with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when all the babies go, it's good to have a good relationship with yourself so that it's not as daunting once they're all gone, So how old are your boys?
9, almost 8, 6 and almost 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And then that must be a lot of energy in the house. 4 boys, that's a lot of energy, Chantele.
It's fucking nuts. It's crazy. Like it is crazy and it's hard, but it is rewarding at the same time. But it's really hard. But I'm like constantly, I think as a mum, we're always learning. So I'm just, when that every single day, like I'm like, how can I do it better today? Like I'm just, what can I do differently? So I'm just always trying to be a better mum and just learn from what's happening and things like that. But it's nuts. And some days I cry a lot and swear a lot.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. And I think the boys seeing you consciously make those decisions will reflect in how they are growing up as well. Then they'll be more conscious people just by default.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I try to, teach them as much as I can, like lessons in life, and not that they, take a lot of it in, but like I just, hope with the way that I am, like, that they see that. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, probably not.
Yeah. I think you're doing an awesome job. You're doing an amazing job. So how did love happen with their dad? What's the story around their dad and you?
So I feel like, well, I've always said to myself, like, I still don't really know what love is. And I feel like, is that because I've never been in love? So I always stick to those three things, like, your first love, your second love, and your third love. And I really reckon like Cody was my second love. But we met when I was come back from Brisbane, and came back to do the harvest. And I'd already sort of knew who he was, and we just through friends and things like that, and just, hooked up, but we fell pregnant really, really fast. So we had a little fling like a few years before, but I think just after I moved I was somewhere around the Brisbane time, but anyway, because I went to Brisbane a few times, but came back to do the harvest, met back up with Cody, was supposed to go back to Brisbane, never went back. Turned out 4 kids later. So that was that. Yeah.
Wowee. So do you remember what it was like seeing, so were you guys friends beforehand? Or?
Yeah, well, we had our little fling like a few years before, and it didn't work out. But I remember when I came back, and the thing with Cody is, like, how people lose the attraction to someone, like after a while, you hear a lot about, like, they just don't, like, I've never ever lost the attraction for that man. Like, he still just does it for me. Like, it's just nuts. And I remember when he walked in, I can still picture what he was wearing, like white shirt, blue jeans, and his hair was all nice. And he changed so much in those few years. I was like, damn, boy, like, oh my gosh, hello. Remember me? And but it wasn't long. I think we were only together maybe 4 months when we fell pregnant with Thomas. So still very young. And I remember I was so scared about like being like a mum, like, as I always said to myself, like, no, I'm not going to have kids. I'm too selfish. I don't want kids. I want to go live my life, things like that. But he's from such a big family. So I had all this expectation on him, like, okay, well, you're going to show me how to be a mum, because I've got no bloody idea. You've got nieces and nephews and I don't have that. I've never held a baby in my life, so I really hope you know what you're doing. Like he was so confident. And I remember when we had Thomas and I think the first week that man went white, and then I remember I've just like gone, oh my God, like, you don't even know what you're doing. I'm like, what are we going to do? We have a baby now. It was crazy.
So how did you get support for that? If you guys fell out of your depth, how did you get support for that time in your life, Chantele?
Oh my gosh. Well, his mum, she's fantastic. So like, she's always sort of been there to help me. And my mum, she's been, she's there too. But it was just like, you just have to just do it. Like, you don't have any other choice. Like, so I think I read 50 books on babies and things like that as well. And try to talk to other mums and things like that. But yeah, it was definitely hard. My best friend at the time, she was pregnant too. We actually fell pregnant at the exact same time. So that was really helpful. So she had the girl and I had the boy, but she just had it all together. Like, she just knew. I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, it just comes so naturally to you. I'm like, I'm not a natural mum, hey. And then I went on to have 3 more. I don't know what I was thinking. So, yeah.
So, okay, let's shift gears a little bit. How do you go with dating life and being a mum? How does the single mum and dating life go?
It doesn't go. I think I've tried. Oh my God. I didn't think that as a big thing. So when I first became single, like I didn't think it would put men off having children. Like, you know, you try to, you know, oh, you know, like the right man won't care and stuff like that. Well, there's not a lot of right men out there, it turns out. Like, so it's, you know, and I've been on Tinder and I've tried every avenue. It's so hard. Like, you know, do you tell guys that you've got kids? Do you not tell them? When do you tell them? Because as soon as you sort of tell them, like, you can just feel the mood change.
Right.
And when they go,
do they usually say something, Chantele? Do they usually verbalise, oh, I don't do that?
I've had a guy go, well, that's a bit much. Like, you know, and I don't take offence to it because, like, 4 kids is a lot. You know what I mean? And, you know, especially when they say to you, like, I think the hardest thing is, like, do you have kids? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, how many? And then I've got to go, 4. And then just, and especially if the other person has 2 or 3, like, that's a whole lot of kids. Like,
yeah.
You know, and guys will say, you know, it's too, like that, you know, they'll either back off real fast or, they'll say, like, oh, you know, that's a bit too much. But, you know, I like to.
Would you date somebody that has no kids and wanted more kids?
So I was seeing a really, really lovely guy, and not for, like, it wasn't really anything, and he didn't have any children. And I often thought to myself, like, I wouldn't date anyone with no children because, like, they don't know what they're in for, if you know what I mean. But honestly, he just embraced it. Like, he, you know, I probably was like, holy shit, you know what I mean? But, like, he just, I think because he was a bit older and he was at a point in his life where he hadn't had children, so he was so ready to give someone that maternal whatever, you know. So, but when it flipped, like, I'm this type of, I just ran. Actually, I got so scared. Yeah, it was the opposite. So that's my big problem too. But
so why do you think you ran from that? It just didn't feel right, Chantele?
Yeah, just didn't. I just couldn't. I felt like he might have had more of a connection than what I did. And, you know, on paper, and he was perfect for me, like, you know, ready, like, accepting of my 4 children, and he was beautiful and, like, such a genuine fucking good guy. And I kick myself some days when I think about it, but, like, you've got to have that feeling inside you as well. Like, you got to go, oh God, I can't get enough of him. And that wasn't there. I'm like, I'm not going to just pretend that's there for the sake of having someone. And, you know, like, just, I want that genuine connection with someone, like that vibe, and just always wanting more. And that just wasn't there. So
yeah. I understand that.
Ways. But no, it's definitely hard trying to date with children.
Because I would imagine you'd just be so busy, Chantele. I'd imagine just with routine and stuff like that, it would be hard to even meet people. So how do you meet people other than the online stuff?
Well, I haven't really I've only met one guy really that wasn't online. Mm-hmm. And this one I was talking to you about earlier. Like, it's just hard. Like, it is busy. And then, you know, when they want to go on a date, and then you're like, well, shit, I need a damn babysitter. Tuesday night's probably not a great night because you've got school in the morning. Yeah. Can you wait till the weekend? By the time the weekend comes, like, you know, if you're not witty enough, or, you know, your banter's not strong, then they've gone on to the next one. It's ridiculously hard. Like, it's just shit. And because of COVID, like, you go out now and, you know, you can't mingle with anyone. You can't, you know, have a dirty pub pash. You can't do anything. So it's been really hard. But it's also been a good time to just focus. Even though, like, I'm, like, trying to date and stuff like that, it's still, like, a good time to, like, focus on me and all that jizz and whatever. So, and finding out what I do, like, makes you think, okay, what do I really want in a guy? And
mm-hmm. And what do you really want in a guy? What's your list, Chantele?
Oh, I don't know if I've got a list, but, like, I know I'm very, what's the word? What's the word? I can't think of it. But, you know, I've always gone off, like, how do I put the word? I can't think of the word, Carla.
What's okay? All right, it's okay. I'll cut this bit out so you won't be searching.
I'm looking for the vibe, if you know what I mean. Like, I just want somebody that I can just vibe with. That's all I want.
The connection.
If you can sit there and just hold the conversation, full connection. Like, no, I'm not. Doesn't matter about looks, well, of course, looks play a little bit of a part, but, you know, it's just about that dead vibe, and I'm chasing it so hard.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. I've got to be connected with so many different levels with a guy. I find that if someone is aesthetically pleasing and I can't have a conversation with them and they're at a different intellectual level, I'm just like, nope, I'm not attracted to you anymore, because you can't ignite my insides. So no thanks.
Yeah. And that's like, I went on a date, and, you know, I think we planned on having dinner and things like that. And shallow is the word. I'm shallow. I walked in, like, you know, and to the date, and I see him, and it was like this instant thing. You know, I was like, oh my God, okay, you know. And I've looked straight to the shoes, because shoes are a big part. Like, if you need to have nice shoes, I know that's just my shallowness.
No. My nonno was always about that. So I'm Italian. My nonno on my mum's side would always be like, Carla, look at the shoes. Look at the shoes. If they've got shit shoes, forget about it.
Yeah, so he had the big, I really hope he doesn't listen to this, but the big skate shoes on, like, and I was like, oh my God, are we in high school? Like, what is this? And I was like, okay, but I'm like, I realize I'm shallow, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But like, you can tell, like, when you say like that intellectual level, like, we were so different, and I just couldn't, I was trying to hold the conversation with him, and it was very clear, like, that he just wasn't my person. So I had 2 beers and I had to go.
Yeah, good.
I just couldn't do it. But, you know, if I'm looking for something in a guy, like, he has to be positive. Like, I just can't stand like negativity. Like, you've got to help yourself, you know, you've really got to do that. You know, help with decision making, and, you know, don't leave everything up to the woman. And oh my gosh, like, I have a long list, but just be respectful.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
The biggest turn off for me is when guys are looking for somebody else to fix them, or to be like, oh, this is where I lack, so I really need a woman to tell me not to do that. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be your mother. You need to sort that out yourself. That's a massive turn off. So being responsible for yourself and having all those essential basic skills is a necessity, I reckon.
Yeah. You need to balance each other. I'm just, you know, it's all about the balance too. So, but I don't know. I think I'm looking for something that's not out there.
Nah, I don't know. Chantele. If you, my thing that's keeping me sane for the last 5 years of being single is, if I exist, so does he. And whenever that's supposed to happen, it'll, you know, and I get so fucking shitty. And this, I hope all the people that give me this fucking advice is listening to what I'm about to say right now. I get so fucking shitty when people that have been in long-term relationships, marriages, and haven't even like been around single for the last decade, give the advice of, it'll happen when you least expect it. Fuck right off.
Yep. I know. As if to say, stop looking, like, you know, just stop looking, and it's just, it'll happen one day. I'm like, well, motherfucker, I want it now. Like,
and I think that comes from such, look, I know that people that say that are trying to be comforting and trying to be kind, but they're speaking from a very different life experience. If they haven't been single for a long time, or that, like I said, been in relationships for a decade plus, and they're giving out advice on how to cope being long time single, people need to be really careful what they say if they have no experience in it. It does my head in, like the amount of times that my married friends will say those cliche things, and my response back usually is, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
And I know you're trying to be nice, but I've been single for 5 years, and there's been a lot of times where I haven't been looking, and that would have been the least expected time, and nobody's shown up. So what the fuck are you talking about?
And they're just like, stop looking, you know, just like, well, come on, like, I'm I'm learning as I go though. So, taking all my failed dates and, just learning, which has been fun. So, and learning what I will accept and what I won't accept and, just things like that.
Yeah, and that's really good. And it sounds like that now that you are more grounded and finding exactly what you want and who you are and stuff like that, Chantele, obviously that'll bring different types of people into your life, and having those different shifts in standards means that you're not going to just accept bullshit just for the sake of it.
Yeah, that's true. And I hear one of my biggest things is you hear so many women like, oh, I've got my walls up and stuff like that. That's one thing that I've sort of done the 360 on. I feel like I should have some massive walls that people or myself would have to hurdle over, especially other people, but I feel like that, you've got to lower those walls if you're going to allow love into your life. So, but just set boundaries. So have no wall, but have boundaries. Does that make sense? Don't be closed off to somebody, but just be knowing yourself what you will and won't, accept. So that's what I've been trying to do.
And it's all about the feels, like you were saying before. If something doesn't feel right, you can't keep pursuing it. You can't keep forcing it.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And I've had a really bad one, and I hope he listens to this one. But I did meet another guy, and that was, that was the first time I ever had the proper gut feeling. But I was so confused with it. I just didn't know what to make of it. It was something was going, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. But then the other side of me was going, oh, but maybe you're just not used to, because he wasn't a bad guy. It was just nuts, so full on. But I was telling myself, maybe you're just not used to being treated so well and things like that. But I'm going, no, it's not right. It's not right. And it wasn't right. It was nuts. This guy told me that, he'd loved me after 4 days. He would not leave my house. He wanted to get married, full blown psychopath. I shat myself. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get rid of this guy?
How'd you meet him?
Bloody Tinder.
Yeah.
Tinder. But, it was just before COVID got bad. It was just before all the borders shut. And I was thinking to myself, I need to get rid of this guy. It's not it's beyond psycho now. And I said to him, look, I'm going to go home, with all this COVID stuff. You're going to have to get a plane back to wherever you come from. I said, I'll pay for the plane. That's fine,
Wow.
And he's like, no, I'll just come with you. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, no. I'm just going to go. You go home and do what you've got to do. And then he did get on the plane. But before that, I remember dropping him off, and I just felt this instant sigh of relief. I'm like, oh, thank God, But he left his suitcase here, still got it, because he planned on coming back, But just left the airport. He rings me. He's like, can you come back? I was like, why? He goes, I've got a knife. I need you to come get this knife off me. I was like, holy fucking shit. I was like, okay. And I was just keeping it calm. I'm like, went and got the damn knife, still got the knife. And off he trotted. And and then once he got back, I didn't ghost him, but I made it sort of clear, this is not going to work ever. And, but he wanted to come, and thankfully the borders closed the next day. So I knew he just couldn't show up here.
Right.
But then, he was ringing me saying, all I have to say is that we're in a full-fledged relationship and they'll let him cross the border. I'm like, fucking no. So I blocked him on everything after that. It was nuts. So that put me off dating for a little while after that. I was like, this, yeah. And he was very good to look at. He was really good looking, but just crazy.
Do you think he was on something, to be so intense and unhinged? That sounds like cocaine's involved.
I know that he did mention cocaine there at one point, but there was no way he was doing it here unless, not that I had any knowledge of him doing it. He did get alcohol, a bottle one night, and thankfully drank himself to sleep. So that was really good. Out of my sight. I was like, oh my God. But it was nuts. I'd never experienced anything like that. I couldn't make sense of it, and it was awful. I'm glad he's gone. But it was nuts for a few weeks after, like, until I blocked him. It was nuts.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, so took a step back.
and you don't need someone like that around your kids.
No, fuck no.
No.
So, and that's another thing too, that's a big thing now. So now I will not introduce just like anyone to the boys. Like the next person that I introduce to the boys, just saying, if you're all listening out there, I'm marrying you. That's happening. Diamond ring, please now. Thank you.
Yeah, like I can imagine that it would be like I dated a guy that had kids, and I always felt like he brought the kids in too quickly into the situation because he was so excited, and it was very sweet and lovely, and the boys and I got on super duper well, and we had a really good relationship. But if I was a parent, I would have waited for 3 to 6 months to make sure that relationship is solid before bringing the kids in, because it's not fair on children, and especially at a younger age, and depending on what age they are, like they don't quite understand how that all works. Yeah, it's confusing and it's not fair.
And that was probably like the good guy that I spoke about, like, because he didn't live here, and it was hard for me, like, to get babysitters to just have a good time, like meet up and stuff. So he did come here when the boys were here, but then it just got too serious too quick, and that's what I hated. I didn't want, like, even though he was good with the boys, I wasn't ready. Maybe that's where I balked. I wasn't ready for him to try to be a father because they have a father.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it was sort of hard for me to watch them with another guy, so that made me question a few things. And like I told myself, okay, so like then that's not going to happen again either. I don't like the way that makes me feel, and so then it's
hard being on both sides of that coin, I think, because I don't have any kids, and I know it was hard knowing what the line was, but like once I kept dating this guy for a while, he was quite happy for me to have full responsibility and all that kind of stuff. But it's really hard to find what the line was, especially because I used to be a teacher. So I have some fundamental understandings of how to be with kids. So that made things easier in some respects. And I think he felt quite comfortable because I was a teacher. But I can see how it's very hard on both sides of the coin, being a single parent and then somebody coming in who's not that parent of those kids. It's a hard dynamic to navigate sometimes.
Yeah, it is. But so like I said, so I like the idea of like what you're saying, like 3 to 6 months. But you definitely need to know, well, next time around for me, like that's who I'm going to introduce them to. Like this is like set in stone. Like it's a relationship, and this, But I was talking to one guy though, and I think he had 8 kids. So that would have been interesting.
That would have been fucking 12 children. You could have started a...
I know. How many kids are in the Brady Bunch? Is there only 6 in the Brady Bunch?
Yes.
I think, I thought to myself, for the Brady Bunch twice over, like, that's fucking nuts. Like, and people are like, what are you doing?
Holy shit.
Oh, my God.
Was it all with the same woman, those 8 kids?
He had 2 marriages or 2, one marriage, whatever. But so many to one, so many.
So would you have more kids if somebody came along that didn't have any? Nah.
Oh, I think about this all the time. So I'm actually in the process of getting my tubes tied. Hallelujah. Thank you. But I thought if I met somebody that didn't have children, that was hell-bent on having children, I might go again, but they've got a year to show up. So otherwise we're done. Like shop is shut. So, but I'd love a little girl. And like my first 3 boys, they weren't planned. And Levi was very, very planned, and I did everything that Google said to get the girl. It didn't work. So I often would think about, I'd love a little girl, and the what ifs, but I'm like 30, 32, and I'm finally at this point in my life where I'm so happy, and it's like oh my God, and I'm nearly finished changing nappies and it's great. I'm like, do I want to go down that road again? Because it puts your life on hold, like for a long time, like when you have children. So, so probably not. But like, so I'm so open. Like I would have, I'm so open to other people having kids. Like honest to God, the 8 kids with the other fellow I was talking, like it didn't worry me in the slightest. You think about like, oh fuck, like that's, and because they're a lot older, some of them anyway, so that wasn't a biggie. But doesn't worry me. If yeah.
So, do you have any parting words of wisdom, Chantele, before I love and leave you?
Oh, well, today's positive quote is just look for the positive in the negative.
Excellent. Thank you, Chantele, for coming on. This has been great. It's been a lovely chat.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Catchalorette with friends near and far, from heartache to catfish and sex toys. The Catchalorette and friends. See you next time if you dare.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back 1% of the account's net revenue to the planet at no cost to you. There's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement, and there's no minimum balance required. The 1% for the Planet checking account, only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.